Sapna, do you believe that the father's age, we always think that if it is a female, her age matters. But do you think, Sapna, that the male's age matters at all? You have many people coming with who are coming with their second marriage where the male is quite aged. So what is your consideration of a male age?
So we actually published a very huge data in a very good journal along with Don Givenson. And we looked at the SCSC, that is the sperm DNA fragmentation and male age. And what we found was at least any male who's above 45 has a threshold of sperm DF5 above the normal, that is above 30%. All males above 45 had a higher DNA fragmentation, and high DNA fragmentation is a very poor prognostic indicator for IUI. The fertilization rates are very low as at least not more than 10 to 20%. Pregnancy rates are at least not more than 5%. So if we are going to get a good pregnancy rate of around 20-25% in a male who's young, who's on antioxidants, and who has had a DFI less than 25, if a male is more than 45, your DFI is going to be higher, your pregnancy rates with IU are going to be lower. So it's very important to consider male age and look at how you can help these men with antioxidants and maybe, rule out a varicocele, because it is been seen that 20% of males have varicocele.
Okay, so Aarti, again, what we'll do is that we are 15 minutes in the program, so we will be brisk in our answers and so that we complete the whole thing.
Right.
Now, Aarti, endometriosis, this is a question asked by our Tirupati colleagues. If there is endometriosis, how would you manage? Would you do an IUI at all?
So I would prefer to do an IUI if it is milder forms of endometriosis, grade 1 and grade 2 endometriosis. We correct the endometriosis and do IUI, and the pregnancy rates in such patients are comparatively higher with the pregnancy rates when you do it for grade 3 and grade 4 endometriosis. Now, the ones who have more advanced endometriosis, we don't waste too much of time because it's a known fact that endometriosis affects the ovarian reserve, the implantation rates, and such patients, we don't waste time and go in for early ART treatments.
Could you tell me something about the ovarian reserve and endometriosis? Because if there is an endometrioma, okay, if there is involvement of the ovary and there is an endometrioma, this is a question asked by our Tirupati colleagues. So if there is an endometrioma, would you want to do an IUI in this case at all?
Right. So there is a very beautiful paper, maybe I would share with you, Dr. Uma, at the end of this session, which shows that in a woman who has a normal ovarian reserve, her rate of decline of ovarian reserve in 6 months is, say, around 10% compared to those women with an endometrioma in situ. If they are observed without any intervention for 6 months, their rate of decline of ovarian reserve is 27%. So it is much higher. The rate of decline of ovarian reserve is much higher for those women with grade 3, grade 4 endometriosis compared to a woman with normal ovarian reserve. And this data, we show it to our patients, and that is how they, easily also get convinced not to waste a lot of time and go in for early IVF.
Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you how we do it in our clinic. So the prerequisites for IUI are quickly enumerated here because I'm waiting for questions from our Tirupati colleagues. If you all have any questions, I'd be so kind to put it across so that we can answer. In the institute, Aarti, could you quickly enumerate which are the patients in which what are our prerequisites before we take up for an IUI?
So as mentioned, actually over here, when there is no medical contraindication, the patient has normal ovarian reserve, or patients even have polycystic ovaries. They at least have one patent tube with a normal uterus, normal endometrial receptivity, and a total motile sperm count of more than 10 million. These are the patients who, I would take forward